Welcome to Season 3 of the Questions With podcast, hosted by Quest Ventures, the top venture capital fund in Asia. I am your host, April Vano, and through this season, I aim to uncover inspiring stories of notable entrepreneurs across Asia who have incorporated ESG values and achieving impact into their business model. Follow me on a journey of discovery as I speak to accomplished entrepreneurs from various sectors ranging from fashion to finance. In the daily hustle and bustle of life, it's a common occurrence for us to place health and wellness on the back burner. It then comes as no surprise that we only start taking our health seriously after a major health scare. Recognizing this problem, it was one man's mission to make preventive training a priority and raise awareness and ways to reduce chronic pains and posture problems before they consume our lives. On this episode, we have the honor to speak to Emile Dumont, the founder of Bodynetic, a company focused on not only promoting preventive health and wellness solutions, but also ensuring it serves underserved communities. Founded in 2017, Bodynetic has since created social impact through inclusiveness and accessibility of its services. Today, I hope to uncover the winning strategy for balancing social impact and growth in the operation of Bodynetic. Hi, Emile. Welcome to the Questions With podcast. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emile. So I'm the founder of Bodynetic. So for myself, my background is actually in sports science, and I've been actually in the fitness industry for about 13 years. So I've been competitive in terms of doing triathlons, road cycling. I've been there. And I've also, my passion is basically looking at health and seeing how I can actually help people. And I used to actually also lecture in LaSalle, which is a performing arts school where I work with dancers, musicians, and have a passion for the performing arts as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. Again, welcome, Emile. And just to kick things off, right? You just mentioned that you've been in this industry for quite a while and being an entrepreneur for a little over than 6 years, I think. What is your secret to staying in the game?
I think there's no real secret to staying in the game with regards to how long I've been in the industry. I think it's really about, first is you have to be passionate about what you're really doing. But at the same time, passion doesn't fully pay for your bills. So it's also
That's true.
to really also have a reason and a good why in terms of the business. And I mean, from the start, because I'm in fitness, it's already been something that I've, always been helping people. And I see it as a way and my way of giving back to society, whether or not it's really the impact side. But in general, when we're already helping someone, to me, that is already something that I feel I am giving back to society based on what I've learned, my experience thus far. And of course, there's a lot more to learn down the road. Yeah, so 6 years, education-wise and the learning curve has been steep. Going through COVID, it's been a very, very, very tough and steep experience. Given that where I started off and where I am now is really different also in terms of business models. So yeah, 6 years is, I could write a book about it.
Yeah, before we head on to writing that book, it's nice to have this time with you and have a short but really insightful conversation, I hope, around your story and as well as what you're doing with Bodynetic. So as you mentioned, it's been quite a while in your journey, and I'm sure there has been ups and downs. Before we dive into, what you really do, maybe just a note, right? What has been the most enjoyable and maybe the least enjoyable part of being an entrepreneur so far?
So the most enjoyable part of it is actually seeing clients walking out happy. We see majority of clients half the time when they come in, they're actually either suffering in pain, they're stressed from work, they're experiencing one thing or another. But when they come to us just for that hour or so, or even just experiencing some part of our service, they walk out happier, or they walk out I've been exposed to something new that I've never seen. And I think that's the part that makes me very happy. Yeah. But on the flip side, which is the dark side of entrepreneurship, which no one likes to talk about, which is basically the back end of things. Yeah. So when I sleep at night and things I think about every day, those are the things that actually, sometimes can give you the nightmares. Yeah. So like think about your cash flow, thinking about your fundraising, thinking about all the different things. I think those are the parts that no one talks about, but those are the parts where I think for me, sometimes can actually bring you down to the lowest point. I mean, COVID was one of the experiences which really, really put me, I questioned myself many, many times. Am I going to close my business down? Yeah, I have asked myself that question multiple times throughout COVID. And even, before that, there was like other business mistakes, issues that I had made along the way that taught me like how to be better in terms of running my business. But at the same time, those were the points that were the lowest. Yeah, but taught me the most.
Yeah, this is going to be, part of that conversation, and I'd love you to share and elaborate more later on. But maybe before that, we take a step back and, introduce to our listeners what Bodynetic is. So maybe you can say a few words, and what do you think makes it different from the rest?
So Bodynetic basically focuses on the ecosystem of wellness. What we're trying to do is really to build that full ecosystem where we have 3 pillars of the business. One of it is basically certifications, where we focus on upscaling and skill development for anyone that really wants to learn about the body. And we focus on the fitness and wellness aspects of those. So we teach like sports massage. We're actually moving to launching more courses like stretch therapy, etc. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is actually the services that we already run, which has been running for years. So it's like an application of what you learn in the certification. So to do sports massage, personal training, posture analysis, all of that, which you can actually still see me face to face for this kind of services. And then finally, the last one is basically the AI fitness app, which is to actually use that as the major scaling model in which we enable people to have access to an app that can help you to like fix your posture issues and reduce your chronic pain problems. Yeah, so that essentially is the business model that we're using across APAC. And yeah, we're currently now in Malaysia and Singapore, and hopefully can expand further.
That's great. Thanks for giving that overview about Bodynetic. But I do understand prior to that, your company was called the Posture Lab, right? So maybe just a quick note for us to know why you decided to undergo this change or rebranding, and where you're taking this new brand or your company moving forward.
So the Posture Lab, the reason why we actually rebranded, I'll share more about Posture Lab first, is basically like we were just a service-based business. We were brick and mortar. We were renting our spaces and all whatnot. And basically we rent spaces, build like a gym studio, sports massage therapy, all of that encompassed in one space. And of course, that the burn rates for those are really, really high. And at the same time, we were actually doing well. And gradually, throughout that phases, like COVID and whatnot, that's when I start to question myself, like, is this model actually going to work out long term? Or do I need to actually pour in a lot of money into it for it to actually just grow? Profit margins and all that are very small and very thin. Yeah, but what we were doing at that point in time, we knew that there was something that was working already. But how could we actually scale it up in a way that we can actually go to the masses without having to build multiple studios, etc. So with that, basically the idea of Bodynetic came about. And Bodynetic, basically the business model of it changed, is that right now actually where I am sitting is basically out of another person's space. So we are asset light. We do not rent anymore.
Okay.
And what we do is basically plugging in services into spaces that require like wellness support, fitness support, where we know we can monetize a space. So in the future, you might actually see us in hotels as well, where we're actually basically running like wellness classes and etc.
Oh, wow.
So the suite of services is no more just posture also. It's more lifestyle driven, wellness driven, where we can actually educate someone from start to end. Like I mentioned just now, like certifications down to the service itself, to actually taking us in your phone and keeping us in your pocket wherever you go, right? So we want to be accessible rather than just having to find us in one place. Yeah. So that's the difference between the Posture Lab and Bodynetic.
Well, that's great. And I mean, in the introduction earlier, we talked about or we highlighted how your mission is really to make this accessible as possible. And yeah, it's great to hear the changes and the way you're adapting also to the times and how you can also leverage on these partners that hopefully can take you to really more and more places. So maybe taking a step back into that transition, what was it like, right? And brainstorming and prototyping this new way of doing business and actually changing, right, into Bodynetic the way you see it now.
So what happened basically was during COVID, I mean, like we did have a lot of issues when we were actually renting. We had a big problem with like rentals, etc. And that's when we actually went to the drawing board and we saw many fitness apps coming out at that point in time, but we were asking ourselves, when is the right time? And of course, at that point in time, there were too many apps and we were wondering, is it now? Do we need to study what's going on? And for me, I didn't understand the tech world at all. So I basically spent about 1 year during COVID actually reading through the tech stuff, understanding tech, and then, understanding AI, understanding how all of that worked. And then we came up with the idea. Then from the idea, I think what was the tipping point or the change that got us into that transition was basically Sustainable Impact Accelerator. So this one, actually, I'm very thankful to Quest Ventures and Raise. Like I managed to get into the Sustainable Impact Accelerator, and Sustainable Impact Accelerator changed my life forever. I basically pitched my idea. Of course, like I got bombarded with a lot of questions, but at the same time, I think through that process, I was educated about what I was actually doing right and also what I needed to improve. So through that process, once I did those improvements and like when I went through the accelerator, I mean, everything was torn apart, everything was broken down and rebuilt again. And that was when I started to see the bigger picture. Like I used to see everything on a very micro, but now I can see it at a macro and micro level to understand where the direction of the business is going. And at the same time, having the double bottom line also is super important to me. Like for us as a company, I mean, like we've already been doing this. We are a social enterprise, I think, for the past 3 years. So what we want to do is to actually continue that, actually using tech and tech for good. So that was another challenge for us, like in terms of we can build tech. It's very easy to build tech, but like beyond it, like how far and how sustainable is it for us? That is something I ask myself every time I talk to the developer to actually continue building on it. So another thing I think that is different, like in terms of how it was built, is basically we already had like product market fit because we were practitioners. It's a practitioner-led development where our clients actually came to us with the pain points and then got us actually thinking about like how can we actually solve these issues that is already being faced, and then we decided to build a product. Yeah, so it's like a reverse, but at the same time we still have other aspects of the app which like need testing and whatnot. Yeah, for me, being a solo founder, it's also different from having a big founding team, whereas I work with like a management team. So it's pretty different in terms of like how you build a strategy and whatnot. So having someone that I can go back to and having mentors now, I think is a big difference versus like last time when I was on my own as well.
Of course, that's true. And I mean, you pointing out that you really came in as sort of the experts in your domain and being able to come up with a solution, that's really great. And it's admirable that you also work with different communities or different, people and type of, I would say, customers and clients. So perhaps, pointing out as this becoming, a social enterprise, or at least trying to create more impact in what you do. I'd like you to elaborate, if you may, about some of your programs or initiatives working with these communities, like people with disabilities or youth at risk, and how has that been different working together as compared to maybe the others that you used to work with?
So for us, We initially started working off with goalball. Goalball is a visually impaired sport which was played in the ASEAN Para Games. So we actually trained the team, the women's team that actually played in the ASEAN Para Games almost about 2 years. And we were doing strength and conditioning. That was the point in time where we started to learn and understand like what was going on in that area, in that domain, where actually I had also no idea of like what was going on. So I was educated by the people, actually by the visually impaired themselves, for me to understand what was actually going on. So a lot of the times we like the able-bodied people tend to like to fix the problems of the people with disabilities. But at the same time, what we don't realize is we're not communicating enough to actually find out the problems that are actually facing them, that they are facing, or they're actually looking for a solution, So what happened is that through that process, I learned a lot from them. And gradually, what I realized is that actually with the app, we can already access or provide access to a lot more people that are actually, although they are persons with disabilities, they are still able in certain ways which are similar to us, or in fact better or stronger than us. So that's what we found out with the goalball team. And then now we're actually co-developing our app with friends with disabilities and Forward Coffee as well. So they have different demographics in there. So there's certain people with disabilities that have like the mild autism. You've got physical disabilities, and then also working with the elderly. So we're co-developing with Hasu from Vietnam as well to actually test out the app for elderly. And if it works and the pilot works, we'll actually bring it back to Singapore to expand it for the elderly in Singapore as well. So those are the certain demographics that we're already working with to actually co-develop the app, where they are the ones that are testing it and giving us the brutal response of like, what do I want from your app? What can you give to me? Rather than me guessing what is good for you. So it's the other way around. And at the same time, I think for the certifications, what we're trying to do is once we've got enough momentum in the certifications realm overseas, what we're trying to do is to get the people that can afford it to pay for the people that cannot afford it. That's the business model, basically. So you pay a little bit more to fund another
somehow
person's
a subsidy.
Yeah, in that sense. And that's how we envision the entire app actually to scale up. Yeah, because we're having people that understand what our purpose is and what our mission is really about. Yeah, so it's getting people that can afford it to pay for those that cannot. And also for the app, it's inclusive for everyone, at least as far as it can go. But for those that cannot, you can still come and see us face to face. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Again, it's all about accessibility, right? Both physical or digital, and of course, trying to address the needs of different demographics. And I think you've proven, right, that through Bodynetic, you're able to serve both the general public, the customers, the able customers or able-bodied customers, as well as those who are underserved. And thank you for elaborating on that. And perhaps maybe to point out, you were saying earlier about tech for good and really integrating into your plan to scale using technology. How are you managing this, especially when we talk about making sure that you remain sustainable and profitable as a business, and integrating this social good or tech for good into the model?
So that is the toughest question, actually. So for us to remain, I think, sustainable in terms of tech for good, and the double bottom line basically is also to really find partners that really want to see you grow as well and want to work together with you, not for you or with you, but together as one. So we're actually we actually work with stakeholders that know our vision and believe in our vision as well. And through that, like right now, we do have grants already that are already supporting us to actually do this, and we're slowly expanding on that. But at the same time, we have investors, we are talking to investors as well that do agree with our vision and want to actually support it. Yeah. And of course, we know it's like we need to give you traction and stuff, but like beyond that, like they already know that we're already doing good. And I think doing good is a factor that right now makes a big difference versus just being a tech. Tech, you can find anyone to build a tech, but if there's no purpose behind the tech, eventually tech dies. That's what I find. Yeah. And at the same time, being sustainable is really looking at our P&Ls and also talking to people like the foundations, philanthropic arms, MNCs, those that actually want to do good and don't know where to put the money. They can actually talk to us as well, because they can actually fund the accessibility of the apps to other organizations. They don't have to be in Singapore, it can be overseas as well. Because for us, we're looking at the APAC region and we're open to any part of the APAC region really.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, that it doesn't just take the startup or the social enterprise to achieve this mission. You really need an ecosystem of other organizations, stakeholders, companies, and investors to share that vision and work towards it together. And I'd like to also get your own thoughts on this, right, about social entrepreneurship or tech for good, and really making sure we are solving real world problems. It has grown quite more, let's say in Singapore and also globally. Where do you see it heading towards in the future?
So I think it will definitely be moving more. There's definitely going to be an increase of social entrepreneurship. But at the same time, I think a word of caution is that I think a lot of people that initially start off with like social entrepreneurship or social enterprises, like we need to look at it not as a marketing gimmick, not as a marketing ploy, but really as a purpose. It needs to be purpose driven, because of course, people can see through marketing, right? People can see through what you're really trying to do at the end of the day, and I think that is very important, because if you're someone that talk like are passionate. I mean, like, look at me. I'm just so passionate about this subject that I can like go on forever. But yeah, if you're passionate about something and you really want to do good, then that itself can speak for itself. But of course, you need to also put your money where your mouth is and make sure that the action is happening as well. So a lot of the time it's talk, but we need to also see the action. And I think when we have those two coming together and there's action and talk and everything that happens simultaneously, naturally you actually start to see change. And that's why that's true. I couldn't agree more. And I love that I could really hear that passion coming out, and I think we can all hear it. And perhaps translating that or harnessing that coming from the several years already in building this with you and your team, and Bodynetic now has become quite I would say successful, right? What do you think is, the important factor or something that you think has contributed greatly to your success thus far? I think as it slowly grows more and more, it becomes not about me, but more of my team, the stakeholders, the people that really surround the business, because without any of them, there isn't me. I mean, yes, I'm the face of the business, but beyond that, I mean, there are multiple external stakeholders, there's the internal staff, there's multiple people, and then the clients that believe in our work as well, which continually push us to want to do even better. So those are the people that actually I would thank rather than myself, because I don't think I have the skill set to do everything. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about everyone else, and how much can we promote and give to the rest of the ecosystem. And to give to the ecosystem, everyone needs to contribute together, right? Rather than being a one-sided thing. So that's how I see the growth happening.
All right. So, I mean, that's of course you really coming together and seeing also your team as part of the success, if not really, the reason why you are, growing the way you're growing. But of course, I'd like to also ask, as the founder, what is your journey going forward going to look like? How do you envision, let's say, the next 6 years, right, into this? How is Bodynetic going to look like?
I would expect myself to actually be going into multiple markets. Right now, we're already looking at Vietnam as one of the key markets, Australia. And of course, we are looking at APAC region, where we're going to penetrate with regards to the app and as well as like the services aspect of it. And beyond that, we would see, I don't know, fingers crossed, let he enter US, Dubai, probably the Middle East. We are actually very optimistic about it. I mean, wellness is now a very talked about topic, and I think people are starting to look at prevention as a key aspect of like healthcare. So we are actually in the right space and the right time right now that I would see us scaling up a lot quicker.
That's so true. Actually, that brings me to my next question, really, about the opportunity and perhaps also the threat in the health and wellness industry. What do you think is out there for you as part of this, big, wellness industry globally?
So right now, actually, there are a lot of, I wouldn't say there's many competitors in the space at the moment, but I would say, let's say, give it a few years, there would definitely be a lot more people in the industry that will be expanding out in the region as well. But at the same time, I think for us, what we are worried about, I wouldn't say there's much worry, but rather it's actually how collaborative would the industry be in terms of allied healthcare, right, in terms of medical, and how are we actually looking to integrate all these different solutions together as one? Because a lot of the times we tend to want to decentralize, but decentralized without working together as an ecosystem does not work out well as well, especially being in the medical or health industry. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And with this, people's lives are really, or lives and lifestyles rather, are changing. And a lot of these conditions and certain health problems is no longer something that people want to wait for to happen. And that's why when you said earlier about preventive care and really putting wellness first is really important. So, as an industry, but also, health and wellness, how do you see, or what do you hope to see change or improve in this industry, maybe in Singapore first, but also beyond?
So this one controversial, but I think is to have sports science, psychologists, and a few other allied health, other professionals that are actually not recognized under the Allied Health Practitioners Council at the moment. What that means basically is that we are not actually recognized under the medical system, So if we're not recognized under the medical system, naturally, how do we actually improve on the prevention side of things, right? Of course. A lot of it is now more rehab, medical, cure. But if we were to actually recognize our profession as part of the medical system, naturally, what you're actually saying is that you actually take this seriously in terms of prevention. And if you're serious about it, then you will see that change.
For sure. And really, even zooming out further as well with, ESG globally, having an increasing, focus and among rather companies, governments alike, and even individuals, there's really, health is really a big factor. So do you think, this is going to change? How do you foresee also the industry transform?
I think there'll be a lot more emphasis on health and wellness. I mean, looking at the perspectives of mental health issues globally, it's already on the rise. With the economy being in the state that it is, I would expect that it's actually going to get worse. At the same time, physical health, I mean, look at nutrition around you. So those are the things that I think with actually food tech coming in, with other aspects of ESG coming in to actually support the healthcare system, those are the aspects which I actually feel can do a lot more. And if supported even more, definitely there will be a lot of bigger growth and a bigger change in terms of mindsets as well. Because right now, wellness, I mean, to some people, wellness can actually just mean yoga and Pilates. But to another group of people, it could mean psychology, and talking to someone else that can help you with that. So I think education is also very important to actually get that out. And it is happening right now. But I think how fast it's happening is also determined not by us but by policymakers. But with change happening that quick, I think policymakers will begin to open their eyes towards these changes, and also look to change policy towards more of the prevention aspects of it and supporting that. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, of course, apart from policy that needs to be changed or improved, what other roadblocks do you think is something that you face greatly in progressing or at least moving forward with your mission?
That is a little bit tough. I think roadblocks in terms of moving forward, I think it will be firstly for me to close my financing round, my seed round. I think if we can close that round, it will naturally project us a lot quicker, and the projection of everything will move a lot faster. Also because our business model is slightly different from the rest. But at the same time, other roadblocks which I find in the healthcare system would be, I think, by schools and medical schools, or even like your physiotherapists or occupational therapists, I think everyone should be actually educated broadly with regards to like prevention rather than also just talking about cure. And once that happens naturally, I think with that taken away, it can actually improve.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's so much more to what we call holistic health, and there's so many areas and gaps still out there. And hopefully, that's where more social entrepreneurs yourself can come in and try to figure out more solutions that you can offer to the world and address them, and hopefully improve the lives of many. So maybe with that, I'm thinking some of our listeners are aspiring social entrepreneurs as well. Whether or not they're in the health and wellness space or other industries, maybe I could, take this shot at asking you, Emile, to share maybe a piece of advice or two for those who might be listening, especially with your experience.
All right. So I think the most important thing for any aspiring entrepreneur that really wants to start a business is to always ask yourself and know what your why is. It has to be a strong why and a motivation for you to start a business. But if you're unsure as well and you're just starting out, you want to experiment, I mean, you can always start off with it being part-time, testing it out, test your idea out, ask your friends of friends, and then gradually get the idea actually validated. And once you have validated that idea, then look at also, I mean, the important part, which I didn't look at, which is like your P&Ls, look at your bottom lines and actually look at those and then determine whether it's time to start or not. Yeah, so, and at the same time, I think everyone needs to also know this, that like you not only need to look at it from the perspective of you generating your own revenue rather than just relying on fundraising. I think this is one aspect that a lot of startup founders or entrepreneurs also tend to just look at. From the get-go, is like, I need to do like a fundraise. But actually, really, you should. I would recommend bootstrapping first, because you really get to experience it and you get to see how your revenue comes in before you take in money. And once you take in the money, you're actually liable to a lot more people. So you need to prepare yourself to actually be able to manage this as well. And taking care of yourself is just as important as running the business. So imagine that's your baby and you want to take care of the baby. What are the things that you need to really take to do? What are the stuff that you need to do to support this baby's growth? So look at that from that perspective, that lens, and then decide whether it's the time. And there's no right time to start. You may be 50-year-old thinking about an idea right now. If you think the idea is great, try it. You never know. So I'm always supportive for anyone that has an idea that wants to go and do it. So that's all I have.
No, that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing those insights and tips for those who are listening, and maybe those who are thinking about some of their ideas and turning them into enterprises. Of course, it's not really an easy road or an easy path. And like you said, you're in this journey for about 6 years now with its ups and downs. And definitely it's good to make sure some of these things we really think about beforehand and while we are going through it. So maybe before we wrap up, right, I do want to know, as you mentioned, it's like a startup is, a child that you are really taking care of and watching grow and try to develop. So for you, how are you keeping yourself motivated, right? Despite all the challenges of growing this company, or what makes you keep moving forward, Emile?
So I think if you follow my Instagram, you will actually see me actually posting a lot of stuff on my highlights about things that I listen to, things that I read. And those are certain things that actually motivate me. And I think in terms of podcasts, listening to other people's podcasts actually helped me to also look at my business and see how I can actually do better. And at the same time, inwardly, I actually ask myself, like, how can I improve on myself? Yeah, because running the business is not just about the external, but it's really about yourself as well. And like, how much more do you need to improve? And looking within. Sometimes you may have a lot of blind spots that you do not see, but others may see. And once you get past those as well, it helps you to see a bigger picture and clearer picture. And that's what has happened over the years, where I've been learning things about myself even more. And sometimes it may be tough to actually deal with it, like seeing the problem head on and having to deal with it. But I think if you really want success for business, then you also need to look at yourself from like, look at the mirror and and know what are the problems that you need to fix within yourself as well, and also taking care of yourself. I think there is this misconception that you need to work 14, 18 hours a day, where all founders need to do it. But to be honest, I think for us, coming from a wellness perspective, I'm talking about work-life balance, and I believe in it. Because if you don't have that, then how am I going to walk the talk to actually educate everyone around me about it, right? So you need to believe in your product. You need to constantly be upgrading yourself. You need to be learning about new things, and always learning about yourself as well and improving.
Wow, that's really great, Emile. And like you said, right, you have to take care of yourself first, because you have a responsibility as a founder, as an entrepreneur, to lead your team, to take care of your company, and of course your clients and stakeholders. So you have to make sure you are all right. And I'd like to add, I know we are sort of wrapping up this conversation, a lot of insights definitely coming from you, but I want to take this opportunity, Emile, not just asking you as an entrepreneur, of course, but really because you are this champion for wellness and health. For those listening to us or in this podcast, right? Just a few words of, not necessarily, it's not really a pitch, right? We're not asking you to pitch about Bodynetic. We really want to hear from you, and I'd like to see if we can inspire others that are listening to really take care of themselves and really put health and wellness in the forefront in their life.
So I believe your body is basically your machine. Your body is a well-oiled machine. But as we age and as we get older, naturally, there are things that when you're young, you may actually have gotten yourself injured. Then you just brush it off. Or you've been having fast food for God knows how long when you're young. But as you get older and older, what you actually realize is that, there are issues that are starting to come up. You start to experience pain. You start to experience other issues. So what I would actually normally recommend everyone do is actually just ask yourself right now, honestly, do I experience these issues? Am I actually facing a health issue? Do I know whether I'm sleeping well? Am I eating well? What am I putting into my body? All those different things matter. And once you actually look at that perspective, actually it's a lifestyle change. And not many people like lifestyle changes, but actually by taking small little steps gradually and consistently, even if it's let's say 10 minutes of workout every single day, if you hate exercise, just 10 minutes a day, naturally you realize your 10 minutes become 30 minutes, 30 minutes becomes 45 minutes, and then gradually you can do an hour workout. Right? And at the same time, if you hate vegetables, you start with putting a few vegetables on your plate, gradually eating those vegetables, and before you know it, you're eating vegetables. Right? So it all starts with building habit. And once habit is there, lifestyle starts to change. And good habit helps with good lifestyle. And good lifestyle naturally leads to a lot of preventive stuff, because all that is within our body, right? And internally, you can have a lot of other issues. Even if you look thin, you can actually have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and all those stuff which you actually would never know. So another important tip is please go do a medical checkup yearly so that you know how you are, and also use that as your benchmark and your baseline, so that you can actually improve yourself. Yeah.
Wonderful and very practical tips from you, Emile. I really appreciate you sharing those. And I was really, asking myself the questions you just posed earlier. And definitely it's something that we have to be more mindful and just really listening to our bodies and being more self-aware so we can take care of ourselves and take care of others. And definitely it's really something that we do hope to also promote and continually share with whoever's listening, to also be, champions for good health and wellness to, the people around you. So thank you again so much, Emile, for spending the time with us during this podcast with a lot of insights, sharing your story, ups and downs of your journey, but of course also really, talking about the great work that you're doing and the impact you want to achieve. To everyone else, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Questions with Bodynetic, featuring the company's founder, Emile Dumont. So for more episodes like this, be sure to hit the follow button on whichever platform you're listening from. I am your host, April Vano. Thanks again. Till next time.